Richardson with Relevate here. We are Real Estate Elevated. We're bringing you another episode of I'm moving to North Carolina, now what? This is our general edition. We are going to be jumping into some North Carolina specific things that you need to know when you move to our great and wonderful state here on the East Coast. But today we're going to hit you with the top 5 things that are different and unique about our state. So North Carolina is a little bit of a fickle beast. One of the biggest things that I think surprises folks when they come here is we don't do something known as pre-inspections. A lot of states, they actually will get a general inspector in there. They will hammer that out. They'll have a beautiful report and you'll know all the things as both a buyer and seller that the house entails. North Carolina, I'm going to hit you with some Latin here, is what we like to call a caveat emptor state. That literally means buyer beware. So we are a state that is an as-is purchase. So that means you need to do as much research as possible before you go under contract. Some great tricks and little tips here that I can offer you is to read those RPODs. They're known as the disclosures. The seller will fill that out and kind of give you the backstory behind that property. It's real important to pay attention to all the fine-tuned details or to kind of take a look at what's not being disclosed. Another trick here is to look at the previous times that maybe it was listed in MLS. Another option is to also pull up the GIS system or our IMAP system and take a look at everything from 30,000 feet. What information can you get that maybe wasn't included in the listing but could actually make an impact on whether or not you want to pursue the home? Another big one that often makes us sound a little bit like the Wild West here is due diligence. Due diligence, the deposit, is a little bit different than due diligence, the window. Due diligence, that window of time, is actually talking about the time period you have to inspect the property and decide whether or not you want to continue with the contract. The due diligence deposit is a little different. That is where money is actually changing hands. Due diligence is due at the contract onset, meaning as soon as you go under contract, time is of the essence, and due diligence is handed over. The part that really likes to throw our out-of-state buyers is the fact that it goes directly to the seller. Now, yes, it absolutely comes back to you at the end of the closing. However, that is money that is out of your account, out of your pocket, and in the hands of the seller throughout the contract period. Another big thing to know about due diligence, it's a non-refundable deposit. If you walk away for any or no reason at all, in North Carolina, you're allowed to break that contract for literally waking up the next day and saying you don't like the front color of the door. You can break that contract, but you're going to lose that due diligence. So a lot of folks like to know how it even came to be. Why is this a thing? Well, over a decade ago, basically the Real Estate Commission kind of made a decision that we need to let buyers have some skin in the game. Sellers were taking a lot of the brunt of the contract, and a buyer could walk in with very little down, and if they decided that this wasn't the home for them for either a huge reason or no reason, then the sellers had to kind of take on that cost of going back to market. So this was to even the playing field. However, in the last couple of years in our market, we have seen due diligence kind of take on a mind of its own. So that is something that we will kind of dive into a little bit later in a separate video because this is a huge part of our contract, and it's definitely something to be aware of since we are one of only 4 out of 50 states that has due diligence. Another big one is we don't have any finance contingencies here. A lot of states, if you lose financing or funding in order to complete the contract, there is a stipulation that either has to be removed or is removed from the onset where you can actually back out of the contract without losing anything. No earnest deposits or due diligence or anything like that. Unfortunately, in 2019, North Carolina got rid of that contingency. So now there is no finance contingency. So if you lose financing for something as simple as you decided to take a line of credit out right before closing, unfortunately, you're still on the hook for the home and have to work that out. Another big one is just the average of our contract periods. In most cases, resale homes are around 30 days. The big piece with this is if you are both buying and selling, you have to be aware and cognizant of that dual timeline. So if you are selling in another state and buying here, syncing up those 2 agents together would be crucial in order to make sure that the deal is done in the time frame that you had allotted. Another one that we have here is radon. Radon testing is something that is crucial when you get to the end line, whether you're building a home or buying a home. Radon is a colorless, odorless gas that we have here that literally comes from the soils in the ground. It is also the #1 cause of lung cancer in non-smoking adults. So it's pretty serious, and you definitely want to spend the extra $100 to $150 in order to do that radon test. The one interesting caveat to radon is that your neighbor may have it and you might not, because again, it all depends on the soils. A couple of bonuses here that I'm going to throw at you, even though that was our top 5. A couple of other things to kind of be cognizant of moving to North Carolina is we don't have a lot of basement homes. Yes, they do exist, but if you're coming from the Northeast, often basements are kind of a staple item. Something else is we do have crawl spaces here. We'll do a complete separate video on crawl spaces, but something to be aware of is looking at moisture and moisture levels in crawl spaces. We live in the South. It's a little hot down here. We have a lot of water in the air with humidity. So crawl spaces are something to take note of. Appliances. A huge majority of them actually convey with our contract, meaning you automatically get those things. But some big ones are your refrigerator, your washer and dryer. Those are personal pieces that you would want to include in a contract. And then we have a few other special ones, like looking into septic systems if they exist. Think waste management. We'll get down and dirty into that one later. And then a big one is that cleaning at the end of a contract period. Sellers are only required to do a light dusting, so please do expect to kind of do some cleaning on your own. And then the last one, which again will be a separate video, is on schools here in Wake County. Wake County is known as a school of choice system, meaning we have multiple calendar options and multiple types of school options for you as well, including magnet, charter, private, and your traditional public schools. So if you have any questions about any of those items, feel free to reach out using the contact information found in the details of this video. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.